Massive changes to my plans coming right up. In the last few episodes, we brought this neck on a long way, and recently we've put the facing on the headstock, we've cut it and shaped it, and also routed for and fitted the binding. And I'm very happy with the way that that's gone so far. It is looking very nice. There's still a bunch of work to do on this before we're anywhere near ready to fit it to the body. And I'm hoping to get a few of those jobs ticked off in this episode. Firstly, the back of the headstock is still a bit uneven and rough. Now I could get this into shape with a plane for the most part, but I've also got this area around the transition into the neck where I'm going to be putting a nice volute, and this kind of profile here needs to be a lot more concave for that. So I think the best thing we can do to make that happen is to set this up, get it onto the spindle sander, and we can do both of those processes in one. And that's not the easiest thing to do with the neck in this kind of shape, because the headstock is wider than the rest of the neck. It's sitting at an angle, which will mean that this radius will be sanded in at an angle, and we don't want that. We want it to be running square to the bed of the sander, so we need to do a bit of setting up work to make that happen. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, and I've done a little bit of prep work off camera, and all I've got is, it's just a piece of board, and I've put a line on it so we can align that with the center line on the headstock, and we should be good to go. So again, it's just another job for the old super glue and masking tape trick. Now, when I started this build, I said it's going to be a long job. I was very open about that. I didn't think, though, that I'd get to nearly episode 50 and still not have the neck attached to the body. For a variety of reasons, this has taken me a lot longer than I thought it might. Primarily because I am a busy man, and also this build has been a lot more complicated than I ever thought it was going to be, which is great because it means I've learnt an awful lot along the way with this one, which after all is kind of part of the point at least. But the upshot of all that is it has taken me an awful long time to get to the point we're at now. And all of this has started to make me think a little bit about the way that I'm going about YouTube. It still amazes me to think that I've been at this for over 6 years now. It literally seems like yesterday since I was embarking on the first of my great guitar build-off builds by turning a lump of old door frame that I salvaged from a skip at work into an SG Junior, because that really does just seem like yesterday. And I think the thing is, I've been making 2 videos a week pretty much every week since that point, and it's not easy. It's hard work, and sometimes it's a bit too much work, if that makes sense, and it just seems to take over your life a little bit. So yes, this can be a lot of work and it can take up a lot of my time. However, fear not, because even though it does take up a lot of my time, I absolutely love it. I just find the idea of kind of sharing my hobby, passing on a few skills, and having the kind of conversations that I do with people, both in the comments here or on other forms of social media, Instagram in particular, I tend to be a bit more active on these days, is for me a really, really good, valuable and rewarding thing. So fear not, I'm not going anywhere, but I do think that perhaps we should make some changes to the way that the channel runs, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But first, I want to talk about what's happening with this build and how it's going to go from here until the end. Now, as we've already established, it's taken me a lot longer than I thought it might, but that's looking beautiful now. Very happy with the way that that's gone. A little bit of final sanding and we should be done, which will mean we're a step closer, but we're still a long way off. And there will come a point on this build, as there is in all of my builds, where we're going to come to a little bit of a hiatus. We're going to have a little bit of time where we're going to be struggling for content, because I don't actually envisage it being that much further down the line until we're getting this thing glued together, getting all the sanding done, cutting any holes we need to for pickups and stuff, and then getting it into finish. However, there is a caveat with that, because once the finish is on, it's going to take about a month for it to be ready for polishing and finishing off. And I want this to be absolutely spot on. I want it to be the best finished guitar that I've done to date. And to do that, the finish needs to be fully cured and it needs to have stood for a long time. It is summertime now and I'm hoping to get the finishing on fairly soon, so it should still be nice and warm while that curing is happening. So it should happen a little bit faster than it might have done at another point of the year, but it's still going to take some time. So I've made a decision. Don't know how popular it's going to be, but I also want to take part in the Jürgs Cup this year. I did it a couple of years ago. You might remember the Bass 6 that I built for that competition. Jürgs was a great friend of mine. We talked a lot on social media. Obviously, he was in Australia, I was in England, so I never had the privilege of meeting him in person, but we did chat an awful lot and we got on very, very well. So I want to kind of honour that relationship by getting back on board with the Jürgs Cup, and I haven't got much time, and if I carried on with this build to the end, I would be leaving myself very, very short of time. So my plan is I am going to crack on with this guitar, get it into finish. I'm going to put it to one side, let that finish cure for as long as it needs. In that meantime, I will be working on my Jürgs Cup build. It's not going to be anywhere near as complicated as this one, so it should go quite quickly and we should be able to get it done in time to pick up this guitar again, get it finished off, assembled, and put the project to bed. So that's my plan. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, but from my side of things, I'm struggling to think of a better way of doing it. Okay, so that's that bit done. So next up is I want to get this all sorted out, marked up, drilled out for the tuners. And these tuners are going to be relatively straightforward to install, hopefully. So the actual posts on these are about 6mm, but there's this little kind of flange at the bottom, which is just under 9mm, which we need to recess in, and the little bushings that go in the top, they're about 9.2mm, but they are knurled, so they will push into a 9mm hole pretty easily, I would have thought. So realistically, straight through 9mm holes, job will be a good one. And in terms of laying these out on the headstock, it really isn't that difficult to do. All I do is I've set this for about 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to just scribe a line both sides 1/2 inch from the edge. I've done a bit of figuring out, and I'm going to go about 52mm from the end of that veneer, and then take my protractor, square that line across like that, and then I've got dividers set at about 35-36mm, and I'm just going to step them off like that. And check with my protractor as best I can, and they look pretty good. So I'll just put a nice ball mark in there, then we can fire this over to the drill press. Just bang those holes straight through. And I've done a quick test run on this just with a scrap of wood, and 9mm works absolutely spot on, so nothing for it. Get them drilled out. And with these I'm just going to peck my way through, take it nice and steady. Drill a nice clean hole. And then with that done, we can just get these positioned and knocked in. They will have to come out again. But they should just push out quite easily. And then it's just a case of getting these in, and you just need to check that they are going in on the right side. Now, generally, that will mean that the tuning button will be above the post. That's how I generally work it out. You can also turn the button the way that you would tune your guitar normally, and just make sure that the post is turning the right way, which it is there. And then I get these so they're running somewhere near parallel to the edge of the headstock. Drill in with a little tape flag so you don't go all the way through, because that sucks. Don't ask me how I know. And then I always put plenty of wax into these. I know I say it all the time, and I hear other people say it too. These screws are generally pretty shonky that are supplied with hardware, especially if it's not the most expensive hardware in the world. So just make sure you lubricate it well, and also just check that that screwdriver fits nicely into the head of the screw. If you don't, you're just going to mar the head of the screw and it will look horrible. So just do that little check first. In terms of my drill bit, these screws are around about 2mm on the external diameter of the thread. So I'm going with a 1.5mm drill bit, just so there's something for it to bite into. And I'll just work my way through them. Now, I said earlier that I was going to discuss kind of future plans for the channel in this episode, and I think plans at this stage is a strong word, but I am starting to think that there are perhaps other different ways I could do things, and I think potentially better ways I could do things, because while I'm really happy with what's happening with the channel and how things are going, I think it's always nice to kind of change things up a little bit and take a fresh perspective on things. And what I'm thinking is, the whole multi-part series thing that I've been doing for a very long time now, I think I could do better. And one of the big problems I have is doing 2 build videos per week means that I quite often have to rush through the work that I'm doing to give myself enough time to edit videos, to get everything else done that you need to do to get the video launched. And that can be quite stressful, and it can mean that some weeks I don't really do a lot else in my spare time than YouTube related stuff. And I also think that it doesn't really allow much scope for the channel to grow as I would like it to. So I think personally I need to do things slightly differently going forward. And what I'm considering at the moment, and I really would like your feedback on this, is to still do 2 videos a week, but rather than them both be build videos, one will be a build video and one will be a video about more generalised topics. So it could be a how to do a certain aspect of guitar building. It could be a deeper dive into stuff. I know someone asked me recently if I could kind of do a deep dive into truss rods and just explain how they work. And my thought is that over time I could start with the very basics and just work my way through how to become a guitar builder. Build it up into something of a reference guide that people can dip in and out of as and when they need them, when they're approaching a certain task on a guitar build. And I think that would be helpful in 2 ways, because it would help keep things fresh on the channel, and it would also mean that I could focus more of my time in the workshop on the build, do 1 episode a week that's going to have more content, and there will probably be a lot more interesting than just trying to rush through stuff. And then the other video, I think I could do a lot more quickly because it's less reliant on doing things. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. Now, those are the tuners installed. I think they look spot on. This headstock is really starting to come together now. And that brings us on to the subject of logos and stuff, because I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. I am planning to put a bit of an inlay in here. I'm not quite sure yet. The originals had either like a horseshoe shaped thing or a steer's head on there. I don't think I'd go with either of those, but I do want to put something in there. But in terms of the logo, I've got my kind of standard mother of pearl job that I do. This is an old scrap one, and I don't know whether that looks right in this context or not, or I've got this one, which is kind of a 3D printed silky type one, which again, I'm not quite sure if that's right or not. I could try doing one of those in a different font, maybe a bit taller, just to be a bit more in keeping with what Gretsch would have done. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see what we can come up with to really dress this headstock up and make it look amazing. I think it's looking good so far, just needs a little bit more work. There is, of course, one thing that I haven't done on this yet, which I do need to do, and that is to dig out the truss rod access. And that could be interesting, because although I marked out exactly where that truss rod is in all the work that I've done, I have now rubbed out those lines, so I have absolutely no clue where it is. So I'm going to have to do some investigating there and find a way of getting that removed so we can adjust the truss rod. We'll have a discussion about the inlays next time, but I think for the time being at this end of the neck we're pretty much done. So I think the next task is to kind of mount this fretboard where it needs to go so that we can mark this neck out for trimming and put the taper on it. From there, we're not that far off from starting to get it carved. Happy days. Obviously, I haven't got time to do that now. All of that is going to be for the next episode. So, as always, don't forget to hit the like button if you've enjoyed this, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.